A French sailor in 1535 was dying. His knees were destroyed. His body was shutting down. They were trapped in the Canadian wilderness. It was winter, and his captain had basically already written his obituary. And then a Native American walked up and handed him a cup of bark tea. Within days, he was walking again. That's not a folk tale. That is recorded in Jacques Cartier's expedition journals. And what was in that cup is one of the 5 things we're covering today. Okay, so here's the deal. This video is not a sales pitch. I'm not a doctor. What I am is someone who went completely down the rabbit hole on joint health. And I mean deep, because I watched my grandfather go from hiking every weekend to needing a hand just to get out of a chair. And I kept thinking, there has to be something that actually works, not just masks the pain, actually works. There is 5 things, actually. We're going to cover ginger powder, Boswellia Extract, Hyaluronic Acid Matrix, French Maritime Pine Bark Extract, and black pepper. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why these 5 have been trusted for literally 100 years or more. I am also going to let you in on the best way to get them all with a powerful new supplement I will link in the description. Trust me, it works better than anything else, but you won't hear about it from your doctor. I'm saving the wildest one for last, because one of these 5 doesn't just help your joints on its own, it supercharges every other ingredient on this list. That one changes the whole equation. Keep watching. But first, can we just appreciate how absolutely insane your knee joint is for a second? Your knee can handle up to 8 times your body weight when you run. 8 times. If you weigh 180 pounds, that's 1,440 pounds of force per step on 2 little pieces of cartilage. And we expect these things to last 80, 90, 100 years without a single tune-up, without squeaking, without filing a formal complaint. Honestly, miracle machines. But here's what eventually goes wrong, and this is actually important for everything we're about to cover. The villain is inflammation, specifically chronic low-grade inflammation that slowly degrades cartilage, the cushiony stuff between your bones, and breaks down your synovial fluid, which is the lubricant that keeps everything gliding smoothly. Once that goes, bone starts grinding on bone. That's the sound your grandfather makes when he stands up. So when I look at these 5 ingredients, I'm asking one question. Do they actually fight inflammation and protect joint structure? And in every single case, the answer is a resounding yes. Let's start with the one that's probably in your spice cabinet right now. Ginger. The stuff you throw in a chai tea when you've got a sore throat. Turns out, it's basically a natural ibuprofen, except without the stomach lining damage, and with a 3000-year head start. Here's the actual mechanism. Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shogaols. These target something called COX2 enzymes, the exact same pathway that Advil, ibuprofen, and most NSAIDs block. That's not a coincidence. That's biochemistry. A 2015 meta-analysis published in Osteoarthritis and Cartilage, one of the most respected peer-reviewed journals in the field, found that ginger significantly reduced both pain and disability in people with osteoarthritis. And here is the part that gets me every time. Ginger has been prescribed in Ayurvedic medicine for joint inflammation for over 3,000 years. 3,000. Modern science finally showed up with its clipboard, ran the randomized controlled trials, and went, oh, yeah, they were right. Which is also how I feel every time I ignore a recipe and something goes horribly wrong. Okay, ginger is legitimately great, but the next one, this is where it starts getting actually interesting, because it works through a completely different inflammatory pathway than ginger. And that's the whole secret behind why this combination works. I'll explain that properly in a few minutes. But first, this one. Boswellia serrata, also known as Indian frankincense. Yes, that frankincense, one of the 3 gifts from the wise men, may have been a joint health supplement. Boswellia extract contains a compound called AKBA, acetyl-11-keto-beta-boswellic acid, and what it does is genuinely elegant. It blocks an enzyme called 5-LOX, which stands for 5-lipoxygenase. This is a completely separate inflammatory pathway from what ginger targets. Most anti-inflammatory drugs don't even touch 5-LOX. Boswellia goes straight for it. In a 2003 study published in Phytomedicine, patients with knee osteoarthritis took Boswellia extract for 8 weeks. Pain reduced by 50% in 8 weeks. But here's what really sets Boswellia apart from everything else. It doesn't just mask pain. It inhibits an enzyme called MMP3, which is one of the primary enzymes that breaks down cartilage in the first place. So it's not just pain relief. It is structural protection of the joint itself. That is a very different thing, and it's why, for centuries, Ayurvedic practitioners specifically recommended this for joints, not just as a painkiller, but as a preservation strategy. Okay, I want you to picture your knee joint as a sandwich. Bear with me. The bread is bone, the lettuce and tomato, that's cartilage, and the mayo, the thing that keeps everything sliding smoothly and makes it actually functional instead of just structural. That's what we're talking about next. Hyaluronic acid, you've seen this all over skincare, but in your joints, it's doing something completely different. It is the primary component of synovial fluid, the lubricant inside your joint capsule, the shock absorber, the thing that makes cartilage glide instead of grind. A healthy knee contains about 2 to 4 milligrams per milliliter of hyaluronic acid. As we age or when osteoarthritis develops, that concentration drops, and the hyaluronic acid that remains becomes thinner and less effective. Here's the thing doctors have known since the 1970s. Injecting hyaluronic acid directly into the knee joint works. That's a real medical procedure. But now, oral hyaluronic acid, especially in what's called a matrix form that dramatically improves how much actually gets absorbed, is producing meaningful results in clinical research. A 2016 study published in Nutrition Journal found that oral hyaluronic acid supplementation improved knee function and reduced discomfort in adults with mild joint issues. And here's what I find weirdly reassuring about this one. Hyaluronic acid is not some synthetic foreign chemical. Your body already makes it. Your skin, your eyes, your joints, all of it runs on HA. You're not introducing something new. You're replenishing something your body just makes less of as the years go by. Which, honestly, is the story of my entire adult life. Now, right at the top of this video, I told you about a dying French sailor, a cup of bark tea, and a story that was almost lost to history. We are about to go back to that. Because what that Native American handed Jacques Cartier's crew in 1535, what kept that man alive, is ingredient number 4. And the journey from that moment to the supplement aisle took about 500 years. It's called pecnogenol, or French Maritime pine bark extract, and it comes from the bark of Pinus pinaster trees that grow along the French Atlantic coast. So, 1535, Jacques Cartier. The expedition logs record that crew members were severely ill, joint inflammation, what appeared to be scurvy, bodies falling apart in the Quebec winter. A member of the Iroquois people showed them how to make a tea from local pine bark. Cartier wrote that men who were near death recovered. He literally called it a miracle. And then basically nobody paid serious attention to it for 400 years. In the 1940s, a French researcher named Jacques Masquelier started studying these compounds. By the 1960s, he'd isolated the active components, a family of powerful antioxidants called procyanidins, also known as OPCs. He eventually trademarked the standardized extract as pecnogenol. What does it actually do? It suppresses NF-κB, which sounds technical, but here's why it matters. NF-κB is essentially the master switch for inflammatory gene expression in your body. Turn that down, and you turn down an entire cascade of inflammation across multiple pathways simultaneously. A 2008 study in phytotherapy research found that pecnogenol reduced osteoarthritis symptoms by over 50% and specifically improved walking distance and quality of life. And here's the bonus feature. It improves blood flow to the joints. Cartilage has no direct blood supply. It depends entirely on the fluid around it for nutrients and waste removal. Better circulation means better cartilage health. That's not marketing. That's physiology. 500 years from a forest in Quebec to a clinical trial in Europe. Same compound, same result. So just to recap where we are, we've got kitchen spice blocking COX2, ancient frankincense protecting cartilage, the body's own lubricant being replenished from the inside, and 500-year-old tree bark suppressing the master inflammation switch. Not a bad lineup. But here's the problem. All of these could be working at like 40% of their potential. Unless you add this last one. Black pepper. I know, it sounds anticlimactic, but don't leave. Specifically, a compound in black pepper called piperine. And I want to break this into two parts because it does two distinct things. First, piperine has its own direct anti-inflammatory activity. It inhibits both COX2 and NF-κB. On its own merits, it belongs on this list. But the real reason piperine is the secret weapon? Bioavailability. Here's the problem with most natural compounds. Your body is actually bad at absorbing them. A lot gets broken down in the gut by metabolic enzymes before it can reach the bloodstream. Piperine essentially blocks those enzymes. It keeps the other compounds intact long enough for your body to actually absorb them. Studies have shown piperine can increase the bioavailability of other compounds by up to 2,000%. 2,000. It's like, okay, imagine you're trying to get into a sold-out concert. All 4 of the other ingredients? They've got regular tickets, they're in line. Maybe they get in, maybe they don't. Piperine is the friend who knows the bouncer. Everybody gets in. And here's what blows my mind. Traditional Ayurvedic medicine has been pairing black pepper with every other compound on this list for thousands of years. They called it Yogavahi, a carrier, an enhancer. They had no idea about metabolic enzymes or bioavailability research. They just observed that things worked better with it. And they were right. The clinical literature confirmed what 300-year-old healers already figured out by watching people get better. So here's the big picture, the thing I actually want you to walk away with. What makes these 5 ingredients genuinely interesting together isn't just that they're each effective, it's that they each hit a different target. That's actually why formulations like Joint Genesis caught my attention when I was researching this topic. Instead of relying on a single ingredient, they combine all 5 of the compounds we've discussed into one daily supplement, which is a lot more practical than trying to source everything separately. Ginger blocks COX2. Boswellia blocks 5-LOX and protects cartilage structure. Hyaluronic acid rebuilds the lubrication matrix. Pine bark extract suppresses NF-κB and feeds the joint with better circulation. And black pepper makes sure all 4 of them actually make it into your bloodstream. 4 different angles of attack on inflammation, 1 structural rebuilder, 1 universal amplifier. Cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years landed on versions of this same combination, through observation, through trial and error, through watching what actually worked. They didn't need clinical trials, they had centuries. What does this mean practically? If you're dealing with a serious joint condition, talk to your doctor. These ingredients aren't a replacement for professional medical care. But if you're somebody who wants to be proactive about supporting your joints as you get older, the research behind these ingredients is absolutely worth looking into. If you got value from this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more evidence-based health breakdowns. And if you want to learn more about the exact supplement that contains all 5 ingredients we covered today, check out the link in the description. That's the same Joint Genesis formula by Biodynamics I mentioned throughout the video, and I've made it easy for you to find. Click the link below, read through everything yourself, and see if it's a fit for you. Thanks for watching, and take care of your joints. Future you will appreciate it.